Good morning, ladies and gents. Today we are looking at the following essential questions. Essential question number 4, what is informational text really about? And essential question number 5, how does interaction with text provoke thinking and response? Today we are going to be close reading the Triangle Fire pieces for the second time. Tomorrow will be the quiz. And as we read through, we're going to be reading through the text 3 times. First time for what the text says, second time for how the text says it, and lastly for why the text matters. As you read through this new excerpt, from each of the accounts of the Triangle Factory fire. When you read it the first time, you're going to be reading it for what the text says by looking at the following claim. Here it is. The claim is, the owners of the Triangle Factory fire were responsible for the deaths of their employees. And you want to consider as you're reading the text the first time that based on the above excerpts, but also from what you remember about the piece as a whole, I want you to evaluate this evidence as sufficient or not sufficient to support the claim. As you begin this response, I want you to begin with one of the following. You either say the evidence is sufficient because, or the evidence is not sufficient because. Remember the ellipse, those 3 dots, means that you must finish the sentence with your own words for that answer. Obviously, then you will continue on with your explanation. Again, as you read through this, yes, I gave you an excerpt, but I really want you to think about what you remember of the text as a whole as well, of both texts, as you respond to whether the evidence is sufficient to support the claim. As we look at this learning target, we are looking at learning target number 14, to assess whether the evidence given in a text is sufficient to support the argument and specific claims. So I've given you the claim. The claim is, are the owners of the Triangle Shirt Factory are responsible for the deaths of their employees. And so your job is to make a judgment about whether the evidence throughout the entire piece and specifically from this section given in the text is sufficient. Do they have enough evidence, not just within these excerpts, but throughout the whole piece, to support that claim that the employee or the owners were responsible for the deaths of their workers? You will begin your response again with the evidence is sufficient or the evidence is not sufficient. Remember, sufficient means they have enough evidence to support that claim. There's enough there to really, truly support it. In phase 2 of the piece, we're going to be rereading the text for how the text says it. As you reread the text a second time, we are going to focus on text structure. I want you to look at how the author wrote the text, the way the author wrote the text, and then answer the following question. How does each author use the structure of the text to develop their ideas over the course of the text? So I want you to begin your answer with the following. These ideas are developed by the author by describing something, sharing something, citing something, including something, giving something, using something, listing something. So remember that ... that ellipse means to finish it off with what's structural element they use or they do to showcase that. Remember, after you do that, you're also going to follow your first sentence with cited text evidence from both excerpts to support your response. Yes, this is an excerpt, but you can kind of think back to the whole text as well, maybe something you notice in the excerpt, but then also carry it over through the whole text to help to properly answer this question. As you read through for this phase of the text, we are looking at the text structure, specifically learning target number 18, to analyze the structure an author uses to organize the text by how text features contribute to the whole text. What that means is you're looking for at how or the way the information within the text is organized by the author. For specific, maybe it's a specific part, feature, section that helps the author grow, change, or add detail to those ideas, opinions, and claims that they're mentioning throughout the text. Structural elements include word choice, heading, text organization, order, such as chronological order, which means it's organized in the order that the the event took place in, cause and effect, which means you see one cause and then you see the effects of that whatever happened, and then you see maybe a new cause and the effect of what happened there. Compare, contrast, so you see similarities and differences being discussed between two components. It could also include the paragraphing, charts, graphics, text format. It could also be maybe the use of dialogue, quotations, etc. It's really, truly what you see, what you notice, the specific things that the author wrote into the piece that are visual, that can be seen, that can be read through, and that you can point out specifically. As you read through for this second phase, as you're looking at the structural features and how it helps the author communicate their ideas, you're also, again, going to be citing text evidence to support your given claim. So you'll be creating a claim in the form of that opening sentence where you address what text structure element you see. And then, so that's learning target number 2. And you're going to follow that claim with your cited quote directly word from the passage. And then you're going to follow that with your full sentence analysis, connecting your quote back to the claim that you make at the beginning. So make sure you're doing all of that for citing both texts. So I want to see a citation from both of those excerpts as you answer this second phase. In phase 3, we're going to be reading for why the text matters. As we read through for why the text matters this final time of the reading of these two informational texts, you're going to be reading the text to explain how the one piece, which is the second one listed from the story of the Triangle Factory Fire, presents a different interpretation of specifically Fire Chief Croker than the first text listed from Flesh and Blood So Cheap. So we're going to be looking specifically at the interpretation of the fire chief, who's mentioned in both of these excerpts. I want you to cite evidence from both to support your response for this phase. As we read through for this phase, we are focusing on learning target number 16 to analyze how 2 or more authors writing about the same topic shape their presentations of key information by interpreting the facts differently. That means to look closely at the way each author writing about the same topic explains their evidence, their facts and details, and supports their claims differently than the other. They both have Fire Chief Croker in there, but they both talk about him slightly differently. And that's what I want you to focus on in this phase. As you look at how the fire chief is discussed in both of these excerpts, I want you to make sure that you explain yourself by stating a clear claim to support your response. So make that claim strong. That claim is your educated, that is your opinion based on how you want to respond to that question in this phase. And it leads your paragraph response here with a strong claim that you then have to prove with your cited text evidence. So make sure you're citing evidence after you give your claim for how these two authors interpret Chief Croker differently, and then follow your cited evidence with your clear analysis that connects your evidence to your opening claim that you made at the beginning of your paragraph. And that will conclude our close read of the Triangle Factory Fire nonfictional text. And tomorrow will be your quiz. Go ahead and get working.